Okay, so we're going to do a thumb x-ray today. So here we go with thumb, and we're going to pick the left thumb, and position orientation is going to be, well, the thumb part's going to be recumbent, and we're going to do this medial-lateral. That's always the first one that you do. Okay, so we'll need a small receptor without a grid, because the thumb is very small, very thin. So then what we're going to do is we're just going to pop that in the middle of the table. Obviously our patient would normally be seated to the side with their hand on the table. We'd raise up the table to be the right height for the patient to comfortably have their hand on the surface. So as a patient has their hand outstretched, the thumb is not quite lateral, not quite in the anatomical position. The thumb's a bit of an anomaly in that we call it the anterior portion is not anterior in the anatomical position, but it's just too complicated to try and describe it, so it's sort of a fudge. So what we're going to do to get it lateral, you actually raise the fingers, usually on some sort of a foam pad, so that the condyles of the phalanges and the metacarpal are actually superimposed on one another, and as it's described in the textbook, the yellow dot, yellow edge, always goes to the distal part of the thumb, because by convention we look at these with the distal portion uppermost, the sort of hanging protocol. The centering point for a thumb is the head of the first metacarpal, which will be about here, and we'll include the wrist. So we don't want to collimate too tightly. And that should be fine. So we'll have a look at that and see what that looks like. Window that. And as you can see, we're nicely through these joint spaces here, and not quite through that joint space, but we're through this one nicely. We've got the first metacarpal in profile, the sesamoids very commonly present in the first metacarpophalangeal joint, and we've got the trapezium, scaphoid, trapezoid, and then we've got capitate, hamate, hook of hamates there, pisiform, triquetral, lunate, scaphoid, radius, ulnar. So we just go through those. We've got the second metacarpal here, third metacarpal. So yeah, we've got an image that's going to be fine. So what we'll do now is we'll go and do the AP projection. Now, to actually get an AP projection, we need to get the fingers out of the way, and the way to do that is to have the patient stand up and extend their hand behind themselves, and so the back of their hand rests on the table. Some patients who don't have a flexible shoulder find that difficult, but generally speaking, it's the easiest way to get the patients to pop their hand on the back of their hand on the receptor with their fingers out of the way, so that we can then spin the fingers up. So now the posterior surface of the thumb is against the receptor. like so. And we will put the collimation on. If you try and get the patient to put the back of their thumb on the receptor without them, while their shoulder is flexed and elbow is flexed, what you'll find is that they can't get the fingers away. Okay, so we're now going to center to the head of the first metacarpal again, and make sure that we have the carpal bones included and the second metacarpal as well. So I'm happy with that, and we'll change that to the, instead of the medial, this is now the AP, because we're going in the anterior surface, and it's coming out of the posterior surface. And then we have our AP thumb. Nice images. We can review those. So there's trapezium looking very nicely there, and we've also got the scaphoid and trapezium, the joint between the scaphoid and trapezium, very nicely outlined there. And the joint between the second metacarpal and trapezium and trapezoid, nicely outlined, so that's quite nice. Do get fractures of the base of the first metacarpal commonly. We also get fractures and dislocations of the first metacarpophalangeal joint. There's little collateral ligaments here and here which tend to break, and so we do tend to get valgus and varus deformity where the thumb is dislocated or subluxed because of ligament damage here, collateral ligament damage there. That's called skier's thumb. And the fracture along the bottom here is called Bennett's thumb.